What's going on YouTube? It's Biggs. We're here today talking about some decent finish. We got a top 32. I just wanted to talk about that real quick. This was a fun event, long. Those West Coast times keep me up. I'm too old. Yada yada. Um, got 28th. I was gonna play Law, but I ended up backing out the last second. I was like, man, do I really want to test my luck against Fire Fist? So we went with our Whitebeard list. I did post this in the community section, so if you guys want to see the full list, check it out. But I'm done with OPO3. There's not much left. I think there's like a couple of offline events that I obviously can't go to, so we're moving on, y'all. We're going to be talking about OP4. We're going to be talking tier list and some lists, because I never show you guys just my opinion without giving you something to like look at, delve into, sink your teeth in, so you can start theory crafting on your own. So let's check it out. Without further ado, this is what we have. This is what I've been working on, still thinking about. But for the most part, I think our top 6 decks here are pretty much solidified. 100% are going to be super duper playable. Competitive will win you an event. So obviously, I'd be remiss to say, Zorro, Whitebeard are still going to be some of the best decks that we're going to see. I made the deck list with the assumption that everything gets reverted with the exception of Radical Beam. I know it's not as big a problem in set 4, at least like I don't see a lot of people complaining about it still, but if all the cards that are on the restricted list, I still think this is the biggest offender. Like Marco has more answers, as we're going to see in the blue decks, as well as the Ninebeard. They actually have the same answer when you look at it. So I still think that this card in particular should be down, and everything else can come off. I still think that's the way to go. With that said, I was experimenting. I don't have an exact deck list, but Zorro doesn't really change much. You can add more Ninebeard. I don't think he's worth it. I still like the Marco, obviously, because he still can get his value. Other than that, just fairly standard Zorro stuff. Absolutely nothing new that we haven't already seen. It still works. I think Fiery Doll and the Jambe package is just a little bit better because, again, boards are super sticky and blocker is pretty relevant in black, as we're going to get to in a second. As for Ninebeard, we can go back to running our tried and true mid-range package. You could probably use the Strawbeard stuff. I haven't tested it. It might be better, it might be worse into some of the dirtily stuff that we're going to be looking at. So in my opinion, I still like this a little bit better. I've been playing it for how long now? I I didn't drop it even when it was, mid. um, and then finally, the other S tier deck, in my opinion, is definitely Rebecca. So this isn't a complete build. I did, put the cards that I think that you should obviously be running, like, your Sabos, your Luffy's, your Kong Guns, your Kuroda Coliseum. But she has a lot of build variety. The only thing that I've seen people do that I'm not a fan of, and they haven't really succeeded anyway, but I just want to tell you guys, trying to run the package without Kongun and Luffy slows down your game plan tremendously, and it removes your ability to win the game in the end. And sometimes you will fuck yourself on time. You definitely need to know the ins and outs of this deck to play it efficiently. Otherwise, you will find yourself going to time and possibly losing. Definitely in the early days, you really got to start like practicing and planning your turns, knowing how to play this like a couple turns in advance so that you're not taking too long in the tank. Because this is a grindy game with this deck. If you didn't know, I'll just go over it real quick. Our leader, she rests 1 and can draw or look at 2 cards off the top of the deck. Choose one to put in your hand, the other in the trash. She is a 5 life dual call leader, but she cannot attack herself. So that is the trade-off. That's why we were running the Coliseum in the first place, which gives all our Dressrosa types. Not rush, man. I don't know. We don't have a word for it, but you can attack characters the turn you play yours. So like your guys can attack rested characters. Your 7-drop Luffy can attack standing characters, so they don't have to be rested because that's just his ability. And then his ability is return 7 trashed cards to the bottom of the deck, and he can restand himself. You combine that with our Con Gun, which gives something plus 6k. However, if you have 15 or more cards in the trash, you additionally get double attack. So this is your big game-ending, I'm going to win the game now finish. You can play the early game not feeding your opponent resources, which is what you should do, especially against decks like Zorro. This is why she actually beats Zorro pretty handedly. I've had conversation with people in chat before who just are like, oh, but how come Rebecca, she only has XYZ amount of championships, and why wasn't she seen so much if she's a top deck? Nobody plays Rebecca or new decks in the early stages of a format successfully, especially a deck like this, which is a hard deck to play. It's not an easy deck to play. Which is why early events in Japan were skewed towards, obviously, why am I going to risk, a championship trying to play something new that I don't know how to play correctly or don't have enough reps with, and is not as easy to play as something like this. We're going to get into this in a second. Why would I risk that? So it took a long time for this deck to be fully fleshed out, and even then, like I said, she has a lot of build variety in what you choose to play. I've seen one championship winner had Kuzan. Some players have no Kuzan. Some players play Red Rock. Others play no Red Rock. Play the Bastard Sword. There's a lot of give and take on the deck and like what you want to do. And there's definitely, you only have the 50 slots, so you really have to like narrow down what you want to use. But she's a very tough deck to play, and that's why early on in Japan she wasn't really seen too much, or at least didn't have the success that she had towards the end, which is, again, people just don't understand how card games work. It takes time. And even then, this matchup can still be hard to navigate when you're running things like this that can just blow you out of the water. If you actually watch the VOD of the most recent championship she won in Japan, they were in time in turns, and she was able to, again, pull off that last minute win, I think on turn 2, with this Con Gun Luffy. She had 0 life, but like, you can play out of a lot of situations. This deck is so good. So definitely give this a try, but definitely understand that you're not going to just succeed just because you're playing a good deck. You still have to know how to play this deck. But moving on, the strategy is filling your trash with cards. You're able to maintain a pretty strong hand size with your leader ability. You have a search ability, just draw effects. You're able to cycle through a lot of cards, find your pieces that you need, and kind of like combo out in the end. Once you do get to the midpoint of the game, you do need to attack your opponent's life a little, because you do want to set up that end turn where like this is impactful for you to win the game. And then obviously controlling your opponent's board, we have options like I said, Red Rock. Bastard Sword is KO a 4 cost or less if you have 15 or more cards, a 6 cost or less, but you obviously have cost reduction effects, so it's very easy to do that. I like 3000 Worlds more than Red Rock in this deck, just because, again, you have cost reduction. And then you can just bottom deck the cards that need to be bottom decked, and then like KO the cards you need to KO. It just depends on what you decide your removal package to be. But she has answers for everything. And she can definitely blow you out of nowhere. Like, just pause. Blow you out. Okay, that's it. Moving on to Law. Law doesn't change much. I've actually been playing a very similar list to this. This was almost card for card what I was going to play in the most recent Treasure Cup. The only exception is we add Sanji because, like I said, Rebecca is a deck that will starve you out of resources, as well as Queen. Queen and Rebecca will not attack you very early. So Sanji is a way for you to dig a little deeper when you're not finding your searches or your searches aren't hitting the cards you need. Sanji is just let me draw a life card, and on top of that, a 7k swing is a 7k swing, right? This Nami tech, I think we definitely slept on for a while, myself included. I've seen her as high as 3 or 4 in Japan. I think 2 is still probably enough for me, just to leverage any Dawn abilities we have. And 6k a turn against decks like Whitebeard, because he's not going to go anywhere, as we've seen, no matter what happens. Still really good. Brook is to help circumvent things like Fire Fist, because that card's not going anywhere either. So you still need that way to build board quickly. And then again, even against the single target removal decks like Rebecca, being able to flood early to make their single target removal a lot more awkward is very beneficial for you. But again, these are just matchups that are harder to navigate. So I definitely like Set 4. Set 4 is a much slower format. Very grindy. You need to know how to play the game correctly. This will be the biggest skill test for a lot of players who are kind of like skirting on by just based off of like your deck playing for you, as opposed to like you knowing how to navigate tough situations. That's why I love and hate mid-range games, because they do go long. There are games that will go 20 minutes plus. Um, um, but they're definitely, puzzles to solve, and I love that about the game.
So yeah, Law, deck that has one of the highest ceilings, and just when Law is on, I don't care what deck you are, it's extremely hard for you to compare like the power level of like when Law sees everything versus another deck when they see everything. It's so good. Like obviously you still have bad matchups like Zorro. You get a few other like cards that kind of make your day hard, but like when Law again has all the tools and they see everything, just it's so dominating. I think Law is still going to be one of the best decks in the format. No matter what adversity he sees, it's Law. Moving on from there, um, those were my 4 S tier, and then my A tier decks. Um, you have Dofi. Dofi is just nuts. You can argue that he's an S tier deck. He's probably an A plus tier deck in my opinion. Just he does so much. Again, this isn't a full build. You can change numbers here and there. There's definitely a lot of consideration for what you can do here. But the core of itself is the same with this this ability is you get to restand 2 Dawn at the end of your turn and then hold up for a counter event, which is why we're running 12 counter events, which seems excessive, but the fact is you never have a dead turn. Like you don't have to worry like, oh, I have to hold up 2 Dawn for my event. I'm always going to have it now. So it really incentivizes you to play this way. Again, which is much slower, which is why I said like you're slowing the game down a lot here. And the new additions that we have, besides the film package just synergizes so well because you tap out for a lot of your top end stuff. Your Nami uses your Dawn to go searching, and then you're just able to restand it anyway. But because it synergizes so well, you're also able to play the purple stuff, which gives you some very powerful film cards. You get a film search card that's also a 2K, so it's extremely versatile. You get Uta, which is one of the best blockers in the game still. The reason why she wasn't seen so much is because purple kind of sucks in OPO3. I don't care what anybody says. Magellan's just mid-tier. And then Gil Tesoro, underrated card as hell. But now that he has a home where everything synergizes perfectly, you get to, on attack, Dawn -2, draw 2 cards. Phenomenal. I don't know if you guys have been watching any JP games, but like when you watch Film Dofi play, it's just they will very easily have 10 cards at like the midpoints of the game, and it's just, what do I do? How do I win? Those are one of the hardest games to climb out of, but it's doable.
but it's because this card is so good. What else do we have? You can change the film package to whatever you want. You can add Film Brook. Film Brook off Film Luffy obviously is just a way to just build board really, really quickly, and then just start outpacing your opponent. This card here, I'm not sure what the English name is, but it's basically Paradise Waterfall but as a 4K. So fucking nuts. So I'm able to like block with Luffy, block with Uta, plus 4K, restand it is the nuts. And then the trigger is give your leader, I think, or character. But I'm just gonna say leader. I'm not sure about character. 2K for the turn, so it's like Rad Beam and Guard Points effect, but like on Croc. So it's actually not a bad trigger if you're like in the end game and you need to be able to survive. So that trigger is super relevant. We're running Thunderbug, and you can run this at 4 and just cut the Union Armado. They have the same trigger effect, which is just a Dawn Ramp you, which is really relevant because A, you're a 4 life leader, and going down to 2 life is pretty easy for Thunderbug's main effect to help ramp you. That way you can hit your 10 drop Dofi, your 7 drop earlier. Because again, Guilt to Sorrow minuses you, so sometimes it makes your Dawn awkward for your 10 drop. This 10 drop is one of the best cards in the game. It's another 10 drop mom feels bad type of card. So we've had the Ninebeard train feels bad. We had the 10 mom feels really bad. I think Dofi feels the worst in my opinion. It's almost like a time walk for Magic, basically just taking an extra turn. Because what he does is he locks down a leader or characters, up to 3 of them, and they cannot restand during the refresh phase. So that's fucking broken. So I establish a 10k body, and then your best 3 attackers can no longer attack me again. I have blockers for days, obviously, as you can see. And then if I hit this again on you, bro, like, just concede. You're not winning the game. So this is one of the best cards for the deck in the game. And Sugar is a really awesome 2-drop. She's on your opponent's turn. When they play a character, you rest her to rest that character. No cost restriction, just rest that character. From the way I've seen her played, I'm not sure what the exact English translation will be. I haven't looked at it yet anyway. It is not a May. When your opponent plays a character, you must rest Sugar and rest that character. That's how I've always seen it. That's how it's been played. That's how I understand it. I know people are going to be like, well, doesn't it say up to or something like that? I'm not 100% sure. We're going to have to wait for the Q&A on this one, I think. But as far as I have seen it been used, that's how it's been played. And then on play, she also rests a card. So, wow. So she can help get rid of blockers. She can rest down a threat so that you can swing into it. So she's a very awesome card, but you can play around her. You just need to know how to. You play your shitty character first, have it be rested, and then attack Sugar so that she's gone, and then play whatever threatening card you want after. But that's the gist of it. Dofi's definitely, again, he could be A+ tier. I don't know where exactly he fits in on this. I still think he's definitely like right here. He can beat Zorro for sure. I think he has a harder time against Rebecca because she just outvalues him. And she doesn't have to attack him early and then just answer the board efficiently. Against Whitebeard, it's weird. Ace is an amazing card. Ace is one of the best cards in Whitebeard. Even with 4 Whitebeard 9-drops, we're playing like 3 aces now. It's just really good against decks like this. Against Law, super awkward. It depends on what kind of build they're running. They might be able to pressure you to keep your hand low, but it depends on how well they draw, in my opinion. So that's why I'm saying, like, I feel like he's right here. And finally, we get yellow with some of the best additions ever, and they're all vanilla. No, seriously, they got some really good triggers, though. This Capone Beige is one of the most toxic cards in the game. You thought, oh, trigger Brûlée at the end for my last life was annoying? No. Beige completely locks something out. When he's triggered, you get to choose a leader or character. It cannot attack.
So if you're like trying to save your best attacker for last, and this is my last life trigger, GG, bro. It's also a 2K counter to boot, so it has immense value no matter where it is. And then the vanillas, like I said, are very, very crucial for helping you to play on the draw and on the play efficiently. Um, Only having like Cracker or Smoothie or like the Parasparrow to play on my 6th on turn, because I obviously can't play my 7 or anything higher, felt really, really shitty. Which is why we were adding the 5-drop, the 5-drop Yamato vanilla from the most recent starter deck. But now that we have our own Big Mom Pirates that we can search out, we don't have to play that card anymore. And then I think something like this is probably the right way to go. These vanillas are very powerful. They're some of the best cards in the game. All they need to do is just be stats for you. We're playing a new 2K counter in Armand. She's a niche ability, but again, she's most likely just a 2K counter for you. But she can trash your card with trigger and rest an opponent's character with 2 cost or less. So that's like a shit blocker if your opponent even has those. Most likely against, I guess, like Law maybe. But other than that, that's all she's there is a 2K counter. And then our new blocker that completely overshadows Brûlé is Sanji. Just a blocker 5K with the same effect. Well, not for free. You still have to trash your cards to play him, but I'd rather play this than Brûlé any day of the week. And then the top end we've all come to know and love is still there, and then Thunderbolt, because Thunderbolt is a good card. So some big additions for yellow. Katakuri definitely will flow better, and still have like good place to make in the mid game instead of just relying on my trigger. So he definitely hits a big consistency boon. So that's why I consider him like right here. Do I put him above him? I'm not sure. It's probably something like this. And then that's it for our A tier decks. I know this is kind of like weird. Why don't we have more A tier? I think all the decks below here are just okay, in my opinion. Queen's like a B plus. I think Croc is a B plus. Ace and Lucci, they just get overshadowed by what's better. But I'll talk about Queen real quick, just because I know people are really excited for this kind of strategy. Queen is dirtle.deck. You do a whole lot of nothing. In the early game, you're not attacking your opponent. You're trying to leverage this Yamato, which acts as removal for you. So on play, she can KO a character whose cost is equal to your opponent and your life total. So that could be up to 9 if none of you took damage, or as little as 5 if you're at 0 and they have all their life. But still a very powerful ability, and she heals. I'm not sure if the heal happens before the on KO, actually. But regardless, very powerful effect for the simple fact that Queen's main ability requires you to have, I think, a 9 cost or less. Let me full screen real quick to make sure. That way we can learn together, y'all. Let's see. When attacking, if the total number of cards in your life in hand is 4 or less, draw 1. And if you have a character with 8 cost or more, you may place a card from the top of your life, from the top of your deck into your life. So this is why we have these big bodies. Why Katakuri, Mihawk, and Yamato are essential for being able to close out the game. So you can essentially go down to Zorro's Queen, as well as counter very early out of hand, so that you can leverage this ability. You can either be drawing cards in the end game, or you can be healing yourself at the end game. But if you've let them establish this very consistent board at the end, and they just keep, outvaluing with these 9 and 8 costs, it gets very hard to win. Like, extremely hard to win. The only problem with Queen is, again, you're a little bit at, like, the mercy of your life cards. Like, if you don't hit good cards out of life and you're countering early, or you don't find your top end in time, it can just fall apart very quickly. Which is why we are playing things like Kaya, Dofi Blocker to help tutor the top, and then Soga King just to, again, dig deeper. You're running the best removal in the game now. You can all stop bitching about Fire Fist and
Jet Pistol. These cards are nuts. Red Rock bottoms any card in the game. Don't care what you are. You will be bottomed by Red Rock. And 3000 Worlds, again, is just that mid-range play just to help get rid of any problematic cards like Marcos, etc. So Queen's a very fun deck. Definitely a high skill curve. Like, you need to know how to navigate the early game so that you're not losing to leverage this leader ability at the end. So definitely a really fun control deck. Probably the closest to like a Magic control deck that we've had in a while. Because again, it's a game of characters, not a game of like spells and sorceries and stuff like that that you can just play and not worry about playing characters and stuff like that. And then finally, Croc. Croc just plays so well into like everything, but again, he can be slow to get off his feet in the early, but got a bunch of new additions that make him really relevant. They finally got the top end that they've always wanted in Kaido. Kaido on play can bounce an 8 cost and a 4 cost, I believe. I'm sorry, y'all. It's been a while. I don't play these cards too often, but an 8 cost and a 3 cost to hand. So he's bouncing 2 cards on board, which, I know people bitch and moan like, oh, but why is this in there removed? Like, bro, you can't have everything. Relax. Sometimes that tempo play to play a 12k and bouncing their top end 8 cost character and like some little shitter or a blocker or something like that is pretty freaking powerful. So I like this card a lot. We're still running Mihawk because Mihawk on the play is still nuts. Soga King to help filter because you are playing a lot of dead cards in hand. We're still running the Passy engine. It's just really good. Miss All Sunday for all of you guys who have them from set 1 and wanted this card to be good. I actually think it's really playable because guess what? What's better than one Red Rock? Another one. So being able to Red Rock 3000 Worlds and then get it back from Miss All Sunday is extremely powerful. So again, another powerful control deck option that we have here with, like your mid to early game engine that helps you like stabilize the board. Ways to dig with Soga King, Kaya, and then just, really strong defensive cards. I didn't talk about this 2K. I'll do it real quick. It's an interesting card. I can't look at the information when it's like this, but there we go. So you can return all your cards to your hand from your hand to the deck and then draw that many. So it's not bad if you bricked and you really, really have no other option. Like, let's say you drew all top end and then this 2K counter as your opener. Like, it's not a bad option to have to help dig you out of a shit hand. And then again, it's just a 2K counter. So at worst, that's what you're using it for, which is still really good. And if you really need to, you'd be able to dig your way out. So that's it. Nothing else really changes too much with these decks. I'm not going to talk about VV unless you really want me to show you like a VV deck one of these days coming. We have nothing else to talk about. OPO 3.5 is 100% solved, so I don't really want to do too much more coverage. We already know what's going to be winning, sadly. Ace, again, if Ninebeard comes off the list, is like you just play Ninebeard again. Lucci is a little different. Lucci, you can kind of combine this Dressrosa package here with Air Door, and it becomes this weird self-mill strategy type of thing, but it works. It's not bad. It's just, obviously, I would play the higher consistency, higher power level deck over Lucci right now. And Dofi, I don't care what anybody tells me, bro. I will stand on this hill and die on this hill by myself. I don't think this deck is good. I thought it was just okay, and it still is just going to be okay. I don't think it does too much of anything in this format, or the next format. It's just mid. And then the same thing for Nami. She just won a championship. I won't lie to you. She just won one. So if you are an extremely talented pilot, you can definitely succeed, but you still need RNG, which that player definitely had some RNG on his side for some of his games. So yeah, I think she's just okay. You will definitely still be able to beat people who don't know how to play against her. Not too much changes. I think she gets a new 2K. Let me see real quick. She gets a new 2K in set 4, and that's pretty much it, which is what I saw him use. You can trash 2 cards in your hand, look at the top 5, and add an East Blue, so it's a weird searcher, but it's a 2K counter. You do this just to dig a little deeper. I'm not sure what your East Blue hits are. Well, obviously you have your counter events and then like your peel-offs and stuff. But just another way to dig a little deeper towards the end, but I wouldn't rely on this for that effect. Again, it's a 2K counter. But that's it. That's all Nami really gets from this next set. And then your other decks that are just okay. I think Yamato probably is just meh. I've seen people compare her to like a yellow Whitebeard. Yes and no. Like if you answer her board and starve her out without giving her her leader ability, she looks a lot worse. And then by the end game, when you're taking her out, like it's not that strong. Again, I'm talking as a Rebecca player in this matchup. Like I think this is awful. Magellan gets a boost. Purple in general will get a boost when ST10 comes out, which I'll talk about in a second because you know that's one of my new favorite decks of the format is this red purple law. But until we get that, purple's still in the shit tier. But don't worry, purple players or people who miss Kaido and like your Dawn abilities and ramp. ST10 comes with a vengeance, and set 5 is looking to boost purple even higher, so get ready for that. I'm excited. But till then, because ST10 is not releasing until November, which sucks. It's part of like a Bandai holiday cash grab. Like, you know, it's holiday season. People want to spend money. It's going to happen. So buy our premium $40 deck, which will probably get scalped for like 100. But that's it. That is the tier list. I have nothing else to show you except my pet deck. When Red Purple Law does come out, my new pet deck, although we won't be able to play it again as it's going to be in November, so it's going to be a long time before we actually get to see these cards, is Red Purple Law. We have what I've been testing out versus like what I originally played with a few additions. So Red Purple Law, Dine -3, bottom a 3K or less character, and then play a 4-cost or more, or 4-cost or less character from your hand. So you're able to leverage a tempo ability. So you're sacrificing your Dawn curve for removal and a body, which sounds weird, like it's hard to wrap your head around at first, but what you can do, especially in the early turns, is pay 7 to 8 Dawn for only 4. And it's fucking incredible. Like, let's say I go Zorro, bottom something, and then I play Brook or any of my other 4-drops. Like, that's huge tempo gain. Massive tempo gain. Especially if it's like a Brook that lets me set up the next turn for it. Or I can recoup some of my Dawn loss with this 2K Shachi Penguin, which recovers 2 Dawn. So like, so long as my Dawn is less than my opponent, Shachi Penguin return 2 Dawn rested. So you still -1, but like you still got a 5K body and 2 Dawn back. And then we also have Beppo, who has an on-tack and on-play. The same type of ability where if your opponent has more Dawn than you can get a Dawn back. It's only 1 for Beppo, obviously. 2 would be broken. 2 would be busted, and I would only play this deck for the rest of my life. But yeah, this Beppo is really good. So this is like a more dedicated, like, the film stuff, or not the film stuff, the ST10 stuff. And then I tried, what I initially had is like the film package. And I still think Uda plus Gordon and then ways to find it, like Buena Vista, are really good ways. And then Nami, I think, is just good overall. We're running the round table because round table plus our leader ability is like Crocodile's ability on crack. So giving anything a -10 and then being able to get rid of Big Mom, like any big character, is huge. So that's why I still think we need it. I didn't put it here, but Red Purple Luffy is like our new ramp deck that actually kind of has legs even without set 5.
It gets better with set 5, but red purple Luffy is annoying. So I'd say the biggest weakness of this deck, I would put it in S++ tier, but the biggest weakness is that decks like Whitebeard and that red purple Luffy are hard to deal with. When you minus Don, it makes it harder to swing 6 or more, so it's very awkward. You're able to answer their board very efficiently early, but again, if you don't find round table, being able to answer things like 9-drop are extremely tough. And when Luffy can ramp and do that, it gets exceedingly hard. And 7-drop kid, 7-drop film kid. We're talking about stuff that we're not going to have access to, but again, like I still love this deck. This is going to be one of my favorite decks to play in set 4, and then definitely set 5 when it gets a bit more buff. That's it, guys. I don't have too much to say on these other leaders. I'll show you where I put some of the other ones, like the new film. I keep saying film, bro. The new yellow purple Croc. I think he's just meh. I think he's worse than other options above him. I even think he's probably better than him. These other guys, I'm being kind of mean. I think he could go like here. If you don't know, the Animal Kingdom pirates get a blue version, and they also get like a searcher. So he gets a little better. I still think the strategy overall is just worse than like what we have at the top here. But definitely more viable. So I'll definitely put blue purple Croc there. Kaido. Blue purple Croc. He gets a buff from more purple Baroque characters, but I don't like this strategy, so but I'll be nice. I'll put him here. Him though, I think he's there too. I don't think any of this sees play below D. Our C tier guys. I love Isho. I wish he was better. I'm trying my hardest to tinker around with this deck because I love the idea of it. Being able to restand your characters, but it's just me. Luffy, I can never put him too low just because, again, red is such a strong color. So I'll put him here. If we do get the restrictions lifted, maybe B. I can probably put him back in B. But again, I think he just falls behind too much. Even decks like Ace, as they're able to answer bigger boards, like Dofis and stuff like that. So this is why Ace is still B, in my opinion, being able to answer the board there. But again, Rebecca's still kind of hard for the red decks to beat. If you liked the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know down below what you want to see next. I'm probably going to start doing some OP04 gameplay videos, assuming that the sim doesn't crash on me. And then tell me your secret brews of what you've been, cooking in the kitchen in preparation for set 4. That's it, guys. Peace.